Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We like to, from time to time on this program, highlight those who go above and beyond and give of themselves to help others. I found somebody. She has been practicing psychology, teaching it. She's a PhD, and she's our Diamond of the Decade. And Marlene DeVoe joins us here on the program. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well and very nice to meet you. And I mean, I could sit here and go on and on about your, if you will, resume of things that you've accomplished. But where we leave off here is St. Cloud State University. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
How
That
long?
is where I was a professor there for 25 years, and then I continued working as an adjunct teaching one class here and there for a while.
And centering on psychology?
Oh yes, as a psychology professor, and my area is lifespan developmental psychology, and so I just love that area. How can you ever get tired of studying about how we develop throughout our lifespan? So we kind of our area covers from prenatal development all the way through infancy, childhood, uh, adolescence, young adulthood, middle adulthood, later adulthood, and into death and dying and preparing for that. So
Wow.
it's an amazing journey that psychology takes all the students on when they take the classes. And it was just such a joy to be able to teach that. And the students just really loved it and were so interested because everything related to themselves, also in their families and people they knew or relatives they knew, or my grandma this or my sister this. And so I was fortunate, unlike some professors who might have to have students taking required classes that they don't
Mhm.
enjoy.
Yes.
My students would be like they liked it and they loved it, and so it was really wonderful. I just loved it. It was so great, and I learned so much from the students also because of course they would ask questions. What if this? What about this story? And so it was a learning process actually for all of us along the way.
You were such an inspiration to those students. And by the way, full disclosure here, my one of my biggest school regrets is not taking psychology.
Ah,
I was scheduled to take it and I dropped out of it because I was already, even in college, I started in high school doing what I'm doing now. And I was, smart, 18-year-old. I don't need psychology. I'm just gonna, focus on film and I already had honestly, I already had gotten the big job I always wanted. I stayed there. You were there at St. Cloud about the same time I was doing my job. 26 years at this one big job, my first one. But as I look back, it's I wish that I had taken those classes because I am so fascinated by the way our minds work. And
mhm.
it it must have been so exciting even for those students to realize as they are taught by you, things come up. Oh, that's why that happens, or that's
Mhm.
how I'm
Exact.
connecting with my
Yes,
childhood and all of that, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Like those light bulbs that occur in your head.
Right.
Like fabulous. Well, Steve, it's never too late.
You're 100,000% right, and we definitely want to talk about that in you and how your journey kind of the car turned a little bit. Let's go there. Let's go back. How it all began for you.
Okay. Well, where do we start? I grew up on a farm actually in Michigan, and we really didn't have any money. It was like post World War II, and then of course my father died when I was 10, and my brother died when I was 10. So, it was kind of tough, that early part of the childhood as far as money goes. And I didn't see myself as really having aspirations to do anything like what I have done in my life, because it just seemed out of what was possible for me. It was for somebody else, not for me, because I didn't have the wherewithal of money, finances, people in my life that would know how to do this. And but I was salutatorian of my high school. And I figured out, well, I need to do something, because I don't want to continue to live, frankly, on a farm. I didn't want to marry a farmer. Because, and not that might not be perfectly fine, but I just didn't want that kind of life. And so I figured out I could go to nursing school because I could afford it, basically. That is why I went, not out of experience with nursing or anybody in nursing, but I found out I could afford to go because it was the old diploma school of nursing, and they provided your room and board, all your tuition for college, everything along the way. And it was $300 a year. So
Wow.
I was like, okay. So I did that. And then I got married, had my children. And in those days, the women pretty much didn't do their careers at that point. They stayed home with the children, which I did. And I must say, those were some of the best years of my life, to be able to be with my children till they went to school. And as soon as the youngest went to school, I got a job in nursing and worked as a surgical nurse for many years. And went,
Wow.
uh, mhm, I know.
Wow.
Again, I was so fortunate. I got this job without having worked for these years while I was home with the kids. And so I loved the job. I was very good at it. And but then
Hmm.
again, I was on my way to work one day, and a voice came in my head, which was, "It's time to go back to school, Marlene." Now, I hadn't been thinking about this at all, but in my deepest of hearts, I always loved school, and I would have gone a different route if I had had different financial resources. But I thought, well, maybe I should go check into getting a BSN. That's a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And so I went, and I started then the next month at Grand Valley State University in Michigan, which is a wonderful university. And they were wonderful there.
Hmm.
I had the best mentoring you could ever possibly have, because if listening to where I came from, you can imagine they made me believe I could do anything I wanted to do, that I was capable of. You don't have to do anything that you are already doing. It's what do you want to do? And my children were now like getting ready to go to college. And so it was going to be a different life also. And so somewhere along the way, I changed from nursing to psychology, because I took the class like you didn't take. And I like fell in love with it. I just love psychology. So I switched over to psychology, got my bachelor's in psychology and health sciences, because then I thought, well, I could go to medical school then too if I wanted. I mean, my mind was just open to everything all of a sudden. And it was women's lib had all got things going. We could do anything now. So it was like the
Hmm.
world opened up for me. And finances opened up because there were scholarships and all kinds of financial aid available. And so I never paid for any of my education because it was all paid for. Of course, I owed society because of that, but still. So anyhow, I'm very grateful for all those changes in society that made that difference for me. So
Do you think, Marlene, that this all happened for you because you're an empath? You're connected to people in a certain way as a nurse in terms of caring for them and feeling what they feel. And then on the psychology side, you're connected with people on a different level, but it's just that connection that you like you thrive in that environment.
um, I think that's correct. Yes, I think so. I do.
As you look back, would you have done anything differently in terms of career path, direction, and all of that?
You might think I could have done this or that, but honestly, Steve, at this point, I look back on my life and I learned so much from everything I did that I actually wouldn't change it. I mean, along the way, I might have said I would have, but now that at this later part of my life, I look back and no, I loved it that I was in nursing. I loved it. It's not like I didn't like it. I did love it. And it was true what you said about nursing. I know people told me when I would go to them and they were ready for surgery, just
Mm,
outside the surgical room,
mhm.
uh, I would go to them and hold their arm and just check their, name on their wristbands and things like that. And I had so many of them tell me, "Oh, I feel safe now." And there was something, I think.
Because you had the connection with the mind, so you knew what they were thinking
Mm,
when you were
yeah.
helping them, like you were vibing them, if you will, because I believe that your mind just works that way. How you can make them feel better. Yes, we can all just pat you on the arm, you'll be okay, it'll be okay. No, you were making a connection with them on a psychological level. And I'm thinking that kind of pushed you in that direction. I want to go back to the beginning when you were looking at those challenges. You had some very close passings in your life, very young. What gave you the push to keep going? When you looked at the financial situation, when you looked at all of that in front of you, many people would say, I don't know how I'm going to do that.
Mhm.
I'm giving up. I don't know, but you kept
Right.
going.
Against
We're
all odds, like, yes.
like they say, I'm going old school here, but where there's a will, there's a way. You found a way, whether you
Mhm.
made the way or the universe gave you the way, but you kept forward momentum in the beginning. Where did that come from?
Well, sometimes adversity brings strength and resilience. And I mentioned my brother's death when I was 10. And I would tell you that I very much remember going to bed, and I very much was attached to my father. And I remember going to bed every night. I would, it was a time I would let myself feel. And I realized that it's a little better today than it was. And then I started noticing that each day it is actually a little bit better, a little less painful. And so I learned to, what might you say, endure, have the strength, the self-discipline, like knowing, maybe it's just this knowing that tomorrow I can get there. If I could just keep together, tomorrow will be better. And
Hmm.
I do think that part affected my life. I mean, you wouldn't.
No, I see it. I got it. And it's almost as if that prepared you to be a nurse and then move into the psychology arena. It's almost as if your brain, your very being was forced to grow up a little bit faster because
Yes.
of that.
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes. Yes.
wow. The what intrigues you about psychology?
I I just loved every aspect of it, how it was personally relevant for me and understanding myself and my family. My mother, who, of course, went through a lot of stages because of all this. And she ended up remarrying and actually having a couple more children and lived way to 97. So she was very fortunate by the end of her life. She was very happy.
Mm,
Uh, but I loved the just learning about people and what they were like and why they do things and how people might change if they don't like what they are like or what's happening or how to get out of situations, how to move forward. And but I also liked the intellectual part of simply the research and thinking about ideas. And I was good in math, so I was the I enjoyed all of that, like figured out the statistics and based on all the research and studies. And actually, I for a while I kind of got caught up in that direction uh, of
like a statistician, if you will.
a more of a well, not a statistician. I was an idea kind of person with it, but I mean, I understood the stats and did them, but no, I wasn't like in love with the stats. I was in love with psychology,
Yeah, yeah.
but
And you
yeah.
say the word math, I'm like, I run.
No, no, no. It's
That's not
just
me.
I'm saying I enjoyed it, like
Yeah.
finding out, aha, I can do this, and here it is, and of course, kind of the egotistical thing of, oh wow,
Mhm.
I've
Well,
accomplished
you
it.
know what it sounds like? It sounds like the pieces come together, in relation to psychology. Um, I want to ask, how do you define happiness?
Happiness. Wow.
I know I'm going a little deep here, and it's just that it popped in my head. For somebody like you and what you've done and connected to psychology, kind of curious. What is happiness?
Happiness is smelling the roses, enjoying what's right in front of you, understanding yourself in that enjoyment, and just being in that place. And when I say that, it's like I could go back when I was growing up and picking strawberries. So some people would think, oh, how horrible picking strawberries for 8 hours in that hot sun and picking down, down in the field. And but I did it, of course, to make money. And you learn from every experience. So I even look back on that and uh, like how much I learned, and I felt so connected to the world with the sun on me and all the other people, and we're all laboring picking these yummy fresh strawberries. They're just so many, and they smell so good, and they're so
Hmm.
beautiful. And
I think there's a reason for that. You were grounded continually. And if you look into energy, one of the ways you can ground yourself is being on the ground, working in the
mhm,
dirt. They even say you can hug a tree and that will help ground you. But I also think for those hours and hours out there, uh, they gave you a lot of time to think and process things, where
yes,
many of us, unfortunately, myself included, don't even find that time because life is just like so crazy. This is over there. Just give me a moment, man. I just want to think. I want to reflect.
yeah,
Marlene, we're
mhm.
out of time. It's so
Oh
wonderful
my,
talking with you.
okay.
I could go forever. It's just, fascinating your direction. And I had no idea. Yes, I had no idea that you started in your career path on the nursing side and then gravitated over to, I knew, psychology. But I would love to even dig deeper into, some of the things that come along with psychology and what you're taught and all. Thank you so much for being here today. You really are an inspiration.
Well, thank you, Steve. And don't forget, you're never too old to take a class.
I can't dispute that. And and you know what it is? It's, people say, I don't have the time. You can find the time.
Yeah.
Everybody can find the time to do everything they need to do. It's
your
just
whole life is to live your life.
And honestly, and this is not about me, I feel that I'm on my second half. And truly, my car is turning a little bit. Your car turned very early. I'm still going to be doing the same thing, but maybe in different capacities. But I see the car. There's a road over there, and I think I'm taking that road. Fantastic talking with you. Thank you for being our Diamond of the Decade, and look forward if we get a chance to get together again.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye now.
Thanks, Marlene. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.